So how did you get involved in language learning development, and what was your motive to develop such a program like DINET?
And many of the students who came had studied in Japan for over 1,200 hours of English, but they couldn't communicate in English. So at that time I thought it would be very good to develop new techniques. So when I started reading about computers, I thought I could go back to the United States and start a new company that would use multimedia input and give students from the very beginning intensive practice in listening and speaking, which was missing in the Japanese schools.
You've mentioned that it is important to follow 4 different steps in learning English. And also you have mentioned that the quality of the same 1 hour spent is different depending on how it's used. So how can we and the students use the time more efficiently to learn English?
Well, that's part of the job of a teacher as a coach. Just like an athlete, you can practice efficiently or inefficiently. In order to know what to do, you need to have a learning theory. So we believe teacher training is the first stage. If you're going to change English language education in Korea or any country, the first step has to be teacher training. Because without the teacher training, the teacher doesn't know how to coach the student and doesn't know how to make a judgment as to what's effective practice and what isn't effective practice. So for example, if I'm listening to something while looking at the text, I would say that's an ineffective approach. Whereas if I'm listening to something while I'm looking at a visual, that's more effective.
Every Korean English learner, they want to be fluent in English. So how can they maximize the fluency and later proficiency?
Advice is that you must start with the oral skills. The oral skills, so we follow the 4 skills path: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And we must also think more deeply about how the brain works and what's visual and what's text. Is your goal to read or is your goal to speak? They're different. You may be able to read very well and not be able to have a conversation. So please do not equate reading with language. Reading helps language.
Many English educators, they're talking about chunking skills, but a lot of readers and a lot of people, they're not really well aware of what chunking skills are. So would you please briefly explain about what chunking skills are?
At a very simple level, for example, at the very beginning, if I show you a picture of a book, I will not say book, I'll say a book. Why? That's a simple chunk, but it tells you it's a countable object. Okay? And but it begins to develop the idea of a chunk. It's not a and book, it's a book. And if I want to teach the color green, I will not say green, I'll say a green book, a green book. That way, of course I'm saying it, but they're looking at a green book and a red book. But they're learning something about chunking, because that now